We are getting very close to have a production-ready bike frame, but there's still a lot of work to do, and we would like to dive right into what has to be done and where we are at right now. So we got our frame back from EFBE, and it's time to talk about the frame and make a little bit of a bike check and explain you our path to bring this to market. So where are we now? 98% of the frame is basically done and validated. The tubes are validated, the lug design is validated, the bonding process is validated.
Yeah, that was a huge part.
I think that was like our biggest headache. The idler pulley, I mean, we have never had any doubt. The seat stays are validated again, the dropouts are validated again. The rocker had a modification, so it's also validated now. All the tubes, all the lugs. This area is not completely validated. This area caused us a little crack and basically is the reason that the frame is not officially EFBE category approved. So that is a little bit of work for us to be done. And then there are these little cracks here, right? Luca, do you want to explain what you have done in the last week to improve this?
Yeah, sure. So the first part did chain stays. We had like 2 tiny cracks, so we basically just add about 25% of material in this area. So normally the problem should be easily solved. And the other improvement was in the bottom bracket plate. So we had more material in this area, and we removed this step here, which was like a huge stress riser. So normally it should also be good, but we are running another FEM run to validate all our modification.
Yeah, basically when you see the video, we already expect the results. So next week we should have the green light for it, right?
Yeah.
So let's have a look at the complete bike. Let's explain a little bit about the features and what we actually have improved towards the V7. Maybe you want to start that, Luca?
Yeah, okay. Maybe what first we kept from the V7.
What did we keep? What's the DNA?
Yeah, there was already a lot of things which were working pretty good, I would say. So first we kept the same bearing in every pivot.
Yeah, everybody loves that, right? For serviceability.
Yeah, we kept almost the same kinematic.
Very similar. We adopted the one more from the Leverage Plus rocker because of just a plusher overall feeling.
Yeah.
Geometry, essentially angles, bottom bracket height stayed kind of the same, right?
Yeah.
We just matched a little bit more the exact rider's needs. And in the end of the episode, we will have a link where you can actually find the real geometry that we're going to build. So maybe, I mean, the rear triangle is obviously inherited because it was just performing really good. Okay, I hated to state the obvious, but probably there are a few people who are new to this project and don't know the core fundamentals of the virtual high pivot. So I would just quickly address that. One of the key features is a really high anti-squat with very little pedal kickback. So I'm not in a complete downhill mode now, but if you look, the pedal kickback is completely minimal, and through the range of the cassette, if I go into the full downhill mode, it actually becomes even less. So if you look now, there is zero impact on the crank, and if we shift all the way up to the climbing, you actually get higher anti-squat, and this is where really the magic of the rear triangle happens. And a high anti-squat in this case also means some pedal kickback. So you can see there is a little pedal kickback, but not really in a bad way. So this helps you to climb better and to descend faster. And then it is a high pivot. It is not a mid-high pivot or whatever the other bikes are called. This is a real high pivot, and you can determine it by extending this line and this line, and their cross section is here, and that is where the virtual high pivot starts. And then it's essentially descending slightly, so it's moving in that range. So it's an absolute 100% high pivot, but it has one big advantage over the other typical single high pivots, and that means it doesn't stiffen up under braking. So a lot of high pivots have high anti-rise values above 120%. and that means they get hard. That means they compress under braking. You hit the rear brake and it compresses, and that takes away traction. Can be beneficial for pure downhill racing when you know 100% of the track, because it puts you in a more controlled position. But for mostly everybody, conservation of the geometry under braking is ideal, and you want to keep traction. And this bike has a anti-rise of about 80%, pretty much stable through the complete travel, and this is great. It's super predictable to ride. Another thing that we inherited from this V7 are the dropouts. The dropouts are adjustable from 0 to plus 30 in 10mm steps. And with the VHPX, we actually including the plus 30 dropouts to give you full freedom of adjusting the playfulness or the steadiness of the bike. Yeah. These are the main characteristics about the VHP platform, and they're all be inherited in the VHPX. What else? What's new? What did we change?
What's new? I think the biggest change in the VHPX is, as you can see, the interface here. So for the moment, you just know the bottom bracket interface, but the main goal is that we can run also a gearbox with the exact same frame. So
yeah, so it's completely compatible, and another really neat feature for downhill racing, because this is basically targeting downhill racing and really big enduro riding, like what you would do in the Alps. But you can also have an option to mount in some heavy weights to get basically that planted e-bike feeling or that planted gearbox feeling with a traditional drivetrain. So pretty exciting. Another little feature that I like pretty much is the Padamelon integration. So we have the big thread for the Padamelon mount, and I was testing without it because I wanted to have as much accurate back-to-back comparison with the V7, but soon it's time for me to throw it on the bike, and then we will also show you how it looks like fully integrated. It's gonna be nice and improve the steering a bit. One of the really nice features I like about that frame. Another thing, the head tube, right? We changed the head tube a bit.
Yeah, it's 1.5 head tube, so then we can change the cup and then adjust the reach or the angle.
Essentially, we can allow for plus minus 5mm, and in the middle of the range, we're gonna make 15mm steps. So you can actually fine-tune this to reach in the range of 5mm steps if you are in the normal size and or height.
We also forget to talk about the new shock mounts. So now we have a flip chip. So with the same shock mounts, you can run MX, 29, and also for each setup, you can run like 2 different progression settings.
Yeah, which gives you really good opportunities to dial in the shock perfectly. Also, it's a little bit difficult, or has been a little bit difficult, to get a shock tune that was open enough with the V7. That's completely addressed. This one is having a higher leverage ratio, so it will adapt much better to shocks that you can buy aftermarket.
Yeah, we are about 30% of progression.
Mm-hmm. Another thing that we always forget to mention, but the box is gonna have a lid from under, and in the lid we can store some tools. We can store an inner tube and a banana or whatever, muesli bar, whatever you like. So everything really in the center of the gravity and not somewhere in the middle of the down tube where it really doesn't make sense to add weight. You want all the weight in the center, and that's why this is our storage. It's minimal, but if you have the weight there, that's where it should be. Yeah, what else? We added this internal cable routing with this prototype, super clean, everything's coming out here. So if you go, for example, for AXS, it will just not look as weird as before, that you had a blinder here. Yeah. And also we will...
we listen to you.
We listen to everyone. Yeah, we're making this for the riders and not for, how to say, for boardroom. Right? Yes. We are completely rider-owned and rider-driven. Also for the brake cable, we are working on an external routing option for those who like it, yeah, very easy and handleable for the race day. Okay, so that's where the bike and the frame is right now. So let's transition to how we want to actually bring this to market. Obviously, there's still some stuff we have to improve on the frame. It should pass EFBA testing without any questions open. And we want the FEM to show everything like green. So there's still some design work for us to do, which Luca already worked a lot on in this week. So as we shoot the video, Alex Wallace has already started building the 3D model, or not the 3D model, actually the FEA model, and he will run the analysis. So next week we should have the results and hopefully have the green light to start manufacturing. So what does that do with us today? For us, it's super important to have a clear path on how much demand we have, because obviously a lot of people like this. A lot of people emailing us, they want it, but we have to measure demand carefully and accurate. So as we are not ready to accept pre-orders, we want to delay the launch, but we found an alternative way to address this. So instead of just accepting pre-orders, as we think it's not fair to accept pre-orders and promise a clear delivery date, we decided to go with reservations. So how is the reservation gonna work? You put down 500 euro for your reservation, you reserve basically your frame size. So this gives us the room to predict demand and plan. But what's more important, you will be the first one who gets invited to make the final order. The 500 euro that you put down will be credited against your order. But there is something actually more valuable than just having that first spot reserved. And that is influence. We will actually reach out to all the people who made the reservation and ask them for priorities, because that's really important. Is there anybody who wants the external brake cable? Is there anybody who wants the weight? Because we cannot have everything ready in 6 weeks, so we have to clearly prioritize, and that we will discuss with the people who make the reservation. So you become an important part of this, and we will shape the future together. I think that's pretty great and pretty interesting. And of course, you help us plan the demand and set up the factory. So thank you for it. Click the link below and learn all the details. And thanks for being with us in this journey.